Hey CCC, my name is Matt and I'm the Student Ministry Director here at CCC, and I just wanted to welcome you into this conversation that you're about to watch that I got to have with Jeremy and Cara Allen. Jeremy is our executive pastor here at CCC, and this is a conversation as we continue to talk about the topic of gender and sexuality. And in this story, you'll hear from Jeremy and Cara. You'll hear a little bit more of their story and their experience with this topic. And it's from them, hear it as their story, but also hear it as an invitation of them saying, for many of you guys out there, they understand what you guys are wrestling with within your own families and your own environments. And so hear this as an invitation from them to say, hey, welcome into our life. We want to step into yours. And they would love to continue talking with you guys about this, answering any questions you would have. But I hope this conversation is encouraging for you guys, is informative, and just helps you better wrestle with this subject and what God says about this and how God views all people, regardless of the decisions that they make, that He loves them, sees them as worthy of value, respect, and dignity. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it really encourages you and uplifts you as we continue in our topic of gender and sexuality.
So for some of you out there, you may know, and for others you may not, but for well over 20 years, my brother has been living in a homosexual but a monogamous relationship with his partner. For some context, I found out that my brother was choosing to possibly pursue a homosexual lifestyle when I was 18. And while I was in college, he met his current partner, and they've been in this long-term relationship together. And because of that, it has brought not only some struggles for myself individually and as his brother, as far as our family, but also it has brought some issues and struggles to our marriage and to our family that we have had to work through. Some of those struggles are, we want to, how do you show to your children that everybody has value, everybody is worthy, everybody has, and we want to love and we want to respect them and we want to accept them, even though they may make choices in their life or have a lifestyle that is different and contrary to what we believe, to maybe what God's plan is, that we believe God's plan is. And so what is, how do you do that? And what is the tension there about what is an appropriate way to respond, to show love, value, respect, worth in those situations? Another struggle we had, especially as we brought up our children, was how do we talk about the idea of these sexual relationships, marriage, as well as this homosexual relationship in the context of raising children. And so how do you walk through the fact that there is this homosexual relationship, but there's also, hey, in some contrast out in the world, there are men and women who choose to live together in a heterosexual relationship, but is also sexual, but outside of the bounds of marriage. So, and understanding that, are they similar? Are they different? And what is that tension, that struggle? And part of that, sort of part B of that struggle is, and at what age do you bring that up? What age is it appropriate to work through those with the children and go from just, this is my brother and his partner, to this is my brother and his partner, and they're in a relationship. They're not just buddies and friends, that they're in a relationship, and sort of those things about what do they, at what age is it appropriate to begin that process in talking to them, especially when you have children at certain ages up the scale and children that are younger. So those are probably the three or so primary struggles that we dealt with in regards to my brother's choice to live in a homosexual lifestyle. So in regards to the struggles, how did we respond, or what did we choose to do? And so initially, in regards to the struggle, but how do you show value, how do you show worth, we really decided that it was important for us to have a relationship with my brother and to have a relationship with his partner. And so it was important for us from the very beginning. So from the time, that our first Micah was born, my brother and his partner, came to the hospital and they greeted him, and we have pictures and baby books of them being together because we felt that it was important for them to be there in those moments, and to that would be a way to show value, to show love, to show respect to them, even though we didn't necessarily agree with their lifestyle, and we communicated that at various points at different times, but we chose relationship, and we felt that having those relationships and not really having some boundaries, but having normal family kind of relationships, and not separating and not keeping them at a distance at those big moments, especially with our kids. That would be something that would separate us, and we wanted it to be something that brought us together. So we chose that relationships overrode some of the differences that we have in how we chose to do our lifestyle, or what they would have with their lifestyle versus the lifestyle that we had. The relationship was still paramount. And I would also just say, in regards to the struggle or the questions about sexuality and relationships, whether it be in a homosexual relationship or heterosexual one, as the kids got older, we had to wrestle, okay, when do we have these conversations? And I want to say that it was about the time that they would reach the age of maybe beginning those purity questions with your kids. And if my memory serves right, it was probably around 10 years old or so.
Yeah, 10 years old. And then again, later when they were 12 or so, talking again a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I think we kind of had those conversations in two stages, sort of a beginning part about that. And then Cara and I also chose to take our kids through Passport to Purity when they got to those older ages a little bit, 12, 13. So thank you. And that's when we would re-engage in those conversations, maybe at a more in-depth concept. But we felt that was an appropriate age as they dealt with their own struggles of, boys and girls going from being icky to, boys and girls going from, hey, I may find this person cute or whatever, or be attracted to that person. So we injected in the concept of purity, and we really tried to talk to them about God's plan and God's design for what marriage is. One man, one woman together, living in a lifestyle, and that is where sex is appropriate, and that's God's design for family, and that's God's design for marriage and relationships. And really anything outside of the bounds of that is not God's plan, is not God's design. So whether it be a heterosexual couple, not married, living together, but in a sexual relationship, still not appropriate, outside of God's plan. As well as then my brother, who'd chosen to be in a monogamous homosexual lifestyle, but again, outside of the bounds of God's design, one man, one woman living together. But so we would have those conversations and begin to engage in those, because we knew that our kids, especially as they entered and got older into late middle school, mid to late middle school, and then obviously in the high school, that they were going to be running into kids who were going to say, I'm coming out as being in a homosexual lifestyle. So definitely needed to make sure that they were aware of what we felt God's plan was, but then also they could mirror that and say, okay, but how do I respond to this person? How do I respond to a friend who has come out in this lifestyle? Okay, my parents have modeled that relationship and acceptance, or acknowledgement of that is important, but I don't necessarily have to agree. I don't have to have agreement with that person's lifestyle, but I can still love and accept them with where they're at. I don't have to necessarily agree. And so that was where we said relationship, love was important, even in the midst of disagreement with lifestyle choices, because we wanted to follow God's plan. And how do you work with those that are not necessarily living or choosing to live outside of that, regardless of what that may look like. So as we think about the struggles we had, and we think about the choices we made, now 20 some years later from sort of the beginning and raising our kids, what are the outcomes and results of some of those decisions? And I would say, one of those was that we did have some challenges, especially early on, because we had a family member who chose a different avenue when raising their children and relationships. So we chose relationship and those things with ours, with my brother, and had a family member who made some other ones. And so that made family gatherings difficult. It made getting together to celebrate birthdays, holidays, those things. It made those difficult and challenging because we were choosing one direction and we had other family members choosing a different avenue when it came to how to interact with my brother and his partner. So that was definitely a challenge for the better part of maybe 10 or 15 years. I don't remember exactly, but that was definitely a challenge. I think some of the results would have been, I think that we've learned how to step into hard conversations with family members. We've learned how to step into some awkward areas and do that hopefully to love and respect and value not only my brother and his partner, but also other family members and those that we engage with. But we've had to walk into those hopefully in an appropriate way. And I know without Cara, I probably would have not done that as well as we did together. But we've had to walk into those areas. I think that we've also tried to show that our kids how to love others and to show Jesus to others. And again, like then when we don't have a lifestyle that agrees with what we believe is how God would want you to live your life, but to love and accept or acknowledge where they are and then meet them where they are, because we truly believe that Jesus will meet you where you are. And we want our kids to know that, so that when they go out, not just inside of our family, but when they go out and they interact with others, they can know that they can love them and meet them and know that Jesus will meet them with where that individual is. And that hopefully that has been important. And so I would just say that the last thing would say the result is that it has helped us to really solidify a little bit of our conviction on how we're going to respond. I think, when you get first faced with these things, you're not 100% sure, should I do this, should I not do that? But as we've walked through it together, and as we've grown and had to engage in these different scenarios with my brother and with our family and with others, we really have come to feel convicted about the stances that we've taken, and feel that this is the way that we desire to go. And so just convicted about that this is right, that these are the right directions. And we probably didn't make 100% of the right decisions, but globally overall, that able to enter into hard conversations, but do that in a way that loves them and values our values and values God, as well as to hopefully show value and respect to others. So been difficult, had some challenges, but as we've walked through it now for 20 years, I'd say more positive on the outcome side than negative.
Yeah, I think it's been hard, but I believe we felt as if we were honoring God through the process, and we did what was right for our family.
Yeah, and so not sure exactly what everybody faces, and we'll pray for you as you grapple with and as you make these decisions, but really feel that together we were able to navigate this as we could, and feeling like we honored God through the process.